Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us for another edition of Condo Insider. I'm Raelene Tenno. I'm going to be your host today. And in a minute, we are going to bring in our guest today, Lorie Sides, with the real estate branch. She is one of a few of the condo specialists that is going to help us answer a few questions in regards to encouraging owners to get involved when they purchase into a condo. Hi, Lorie. Nice to see you.
Hi, Raelene. Good to see you too.
So today we're going to talk about, and I thank you for being on the show with me today too. But we wanted to go over and kind of review about, how do we get owners involved? They bought into a condo. Hopefully they've read all their documents that were presented to them at the time of purchase. How do we encourage them to kind of get involved in where they live? A condo is part of their community. So they should get involved to a point of knowing what's going on. A community is like your neighborhood, right? Just like on a single family home, you have a street, you know certain neighbors, you kind of know what's going on. So how do we go about doing that?
Okay, well, a great question. I mean, first of all, I think that owners should know already that when they buy a condo, they are actually automatically a member of the condominium association. And so the association is basically just made up of all the owners. And the association is like a mini government. I mean, the owners, they elect a board of directors to represent them and to govern the association. So, the board makes all these decisions on how to run the association. And basically, as far as getting involved, I think for most condo owners, their condominium is probably their most valuable asset, right? I mean, they're spending a lot of money for this. And like any, asset or investment, you kind of want to nurture it. You want to take care of it. You want it to grow, hopefully, become, at least maintain its value. I mean, maybe even become more valuable. And, one of the ways to do that is to get involved with your condominium, with the governance. And again, it's not just an investment. I mean, this is where you live, right? I mean, I assume most people would spend, a fair amount of time at their home. And you want to live in a happy place. I mean, you want to be somewhere where you want to be. You don't want to dread going home, right? So I think
No.
there's an incentive, to get involved and to try to make sure that it is a happy place and that it's a place you want to be. And, because there's common spaces and everything, and you have neighbors that are close by. I mean, you kind of want to get to know your neighbors. You want to get involved. You want to sort of foster, like you said, that sense of community, that sense of belonging, having a safe community, that sort of thing. So I think those are all really good reasons to get involved in your condominium association.
Yeah, because I know a lot of times when you buy in to a community or a condos are a little bit more close knit versus like in single family home, we're a little bit spread out. But getting to know your neighbors, and it's not like you're going to be in the area knowing everything that they do, but sometimes after a while you get to know the routines, like they go to work at a certain time, they come home at a certain time. But it can also be helpful by like for yourselves too, like you have your own routine. What if something happened to you, but everybody's kind of like, they mind their own business. They don't know that they haven't seen you in 5 days, and something happened to you, so that's kind of, to me, one of the reasons why you kind of want to get to know your neighbors, get involved so that, there's a concern, everybody's concerned for each other's well-being, even if you have kids, like, hey, the kid, what happened to the child? We haven't seen them, or, you see them fall or something, or, something that could hurt them. You kind of want to alert the parents, say, hey, we saw him fall, we saw, something happened that, you might be aware of. But, it's so that you instill, to me, it's so you instill that protection kind of, I want to say, of your neighbors and your community as well. you know? So, so how do you think they should kind of instill that to the community that they want to be informed of what's going on? They want to know what's going on.
Well, I mean, I think you make a really good point, especially nowadays. There seems to be a lot more crime. I don't know. I feel like there is. And I think that, knowing your neighbors and kind of looking out for each other and knowing their routines and knowing who's supposed to be there and who's not supposed to be there is really a good thing. Um, but, I think that I mean, there's certain things I think that the condo owners should do to get involved. And, they should, for instance, be familiar with their house rules. That's one big thing. Because I feel that, you know, it's kind of like if you play a game, right? If you don't know the rules of the game, it's kind of hard to play.
Right.
So, I mean, in likening it that way, if you live somewhere in a condo, there's house rules, right? And you want to be familiar with those rules so that you can, well, you need to know them in order to follow them, right? So that you can follow them, keep the peace and basically, stay out of trouble. Nobody really wants to get dinged for doing something wrong. And if you don't know that you're doing something wrong, type of thing. So, I mean, really being familiar with house rules is a really great way to get informed. Um, the whole point is because we're living in a community and because we're living close together, we sort of want to keep it civil and orderly, and that's really the reason for the house rules.
I know some condos, they've gotten into a practice when they have a new occupant coming in. A lot of them will like they want them to fill out a form that will have their emergency contact information, things of that nature. And they also will review the house rules with them at the same time. So they have kind of like a little sense of assurance that they at least got the basics of the house rules, you know. Um,
Yeah.
and some of them will make them sign off that they received it. But I always tell people, I go, you should try to at least go through the main points, especially if there's a pool. You want to make sure that everybody's clear on the rules of the pool. And when it's open and when it's closed, those kind of time frames. And
Hmm.
because those are usually a hot topic when it comes to the pool areas. And like the important do's and don'ts, you know.
Right.
I think that kind of helps people start off on the right foot, so at least you give them a kind of a highlight of the do's and don'ts. And that way you can have the opportunity to get to know these new people that are new to the community. Um, and also get to know their children, if they have children, so that you can kind of be familiar, you can recognize them. Oh yeah, that belongs to those parents right there. Um, Not that you just see a kid walking around and you're like, well, who do you belong to? At least you kind of go, no, they belong to those parents over there. So I think those ways are to get your new owners or your new residents involved. And it applies to not just owners, but to people that are renting, their tenants. They need to know the house rules as well. And a lot of times I know some people that make the tenants review the house rules before they even move further on an application because they want to know up front, are you going to abide by these rules? If not, we're not going to move forward, So those are some kind of little tidbits that some people have done.
Yeah.
But what other ways can we get them involved, these owners involved? Like, how do you encourage them to attend board meetings or even the annual meeting?
Well, again, as far as, trying to protect this investment, trying to stay abreast of, what issues are affecting your association, what's going on, what's happening, what issues are they dealing with? I mean, to me, making the commitment to go to the annual association meeting, I mean, it's called an annual meeting usually because it's once a year, right? The association meeting, that just seems like a pretty small time commitment, that everybody could probably make the time to attend the annual meeting. I mean, it's really important for owners to go and attend and participate. I mean, they they elect the board members. Sometimes there might be proposals to amend bylaws. They roll over usually association funds, and they have other, actions that will affect the future of the community. So, going to the meeting and voting, taking the time to review who's running for the board, what are their qualifications, who do I think is who's gonna best represent me on this board, taking the time to familiarize yourself and actually voting, sending in when you get that proxy, sending it in, going to the meeting, all those things are really important. Of course, you can attend board meetings. Usually those are held more frequently and they're open to all owners, other than the executive session, of course, of the meeting, but they're open to all owners, and owners may participate in the meetings and, any discussions, deliberations, of course, other than the executive sessions. And that's unless a majority of the board votes otherwise. But that's a really good way to learn about the association's business and, what projects they might be working on, what issues they might be dealing with, just kind of what's going on. And I mean, there's other benefits to going to the meetings, like, you talked about meeting your neighbors, right? And knowing your neighbors. I mean, that's a good way to meet your neighbors, to meet the board members, to learn how the association operates, and again, about upcoming projects. And you can share your ideas. I mean, that's your chance to participate and share your thoughts and ideas, and probably better understand, why the board is making the decisions that they're making. You can also meet the resident or site manager if you might not have met them, as well as if you have a condominium managing agent, you can meet the property manager because they attend the meetings. So I mean, it's kind of a good way to network and know these people so that when you need to talk to them, or if you need their help, or whatever it may be, that you know who they are. They can kind of put a face with a name. I think that's sort of helpful.
I think after, if you attend your first board meeting, it might seem scary or intimidating in the very beginning, or it may or may not. But I think spending the time there, and then maybe hopefully after the meeting, once you've met who the board members are, resident manager might have a one-on-one conversation with them on your questions, And the other thing I always encourage people, I go, try to do committees, or get involved in some of the committees. Or a committee that you have a passion for, like landscaping, or like I said, painting. I know one time at a board, a condo that I used to have, we were trying to paint the building, and all the board members except for the men, we wanted to change away from the brown, that dark brown look, and we're like, no, we don't want the brown. Only the guys want, no, we want the brown. We're like, no. So the women won out, but it was a selection of the color. And it was interesting to find out, one of the board members, she lived in a single family, but she had told us that we shouldn't use blue. And we're like, why? And she said, because their house is painted blue. And after a few years, they're trying to do a repair. And when they took out the original can, from the original paint, the paint had faded so much that they really couldn't even use the original paint. So she kind of put in that 2 cents of recommendation that that certain colors might fade over time, that and some other colors hold, like brown pretty much holds their color. It doesn't really fade, that dark brown, So it was kind of input, and then we all decided to put up samples on different sides of the building because the sun impacts the color over time. And they left it up there for like 6 months. And then they went back and put another coat to see how it changed over time. And it became more fun, because you had people that were able to comment. Then there was a vote. They left it open. So to kind of get everybody involved, they left it open for the owners or residents to vote on their favorite color for the building. So it kind of became like a fun kind of a thing. So you got people to kind of get involved in a little roundabout way, to let them feel like they have a voice, So it really, to me, it really got to be kind of fun. Um, and we set parameters. We let them know the reasons why of certain colors, or we wanted one that wasn't going to fade, and different things. We kind of put some objectives so that they understood the reasons why, you know. Because sometimes when you're selecting paint, they don't understand the reasons why of certain things, or even certain repairs or landscaping. We want drought tolerant, because we're trying to save on the water, you know. Or they're saying like one area they wanted to plant like a mondo grass, and it was like, why do you want to do that? Well, number one, you don't have to cut it. Number two, that area, it gets a lot of moisture, so you don't have to maintain it so much by watering it, because mondo grass takes quite a bit of water. So they became a little bit more understanding the reasons why this and why not, and then that time they became a little bit more relaxed, and it wasn't so I don't want to use the word aggressive, but it wasn't as much pushback. They understood the theory, or the objectives that the board wanted to make.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I absolutely agree with what you're saying. I think it all boils down to communication. And, when you don't know what's going on, or you don't understand why something's happening, there can be, I don't know, confusion, or I don't want to say conspiracy theories, but, there can be all this, you kind of invent all these things in your mind, right? And then people talk to their neighbor, and, they talk to their neighbor, and then it kind of gets to be this big, huge blown up thing. Whereas if you just went to the meeting and either asked the question, or you went to the meeting and they're discussing landscaping and they say, we're using this grass because blah, 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 it's, you don't have to mow it. It's easier to maintain. It will cost less, all these things. Then you kind of nip all that stuff, in a bud, and you don't have to be spending time complaining and worrying and inventing all these things when there's a really good reason. On the other hand, maybe there isn't a good reason. Maybe nobody on the board has a landscape experience, and maybe some owners do. And, if they go to the board meeting and they, share their knowledge or give some input, that would help the board, that would help the association. So again, I really, I think this communication is important. I mean, we all live here together. It's not going to be one big happy family all the time, of course, but we live here together. I mean, let's kind of try to make this work, let's work together. Let's not have this us versus them, or the board versus, the rest of the owners. I mean, remember, the board members are owners too, right? So let's try to have this cohesive, collaborative environment. That's kind of the whole bottom line and the point. And, your a suggestion of volunteering for committees is excellent. I mean, and what you were telling me, I've never heard of that painting and watching for 6 months and painting again. But, that does sound kind of fun. I mean, I never heard of it, but hey, good idea, right? So creativity, I mean, that's great.
Yeah, it was amazing, especially when you look at the west side sun is usually going to be the harshest, and sometimes even the morning sun can be really harsh. So, so that was kind of the objective, because you don't want to have to be painting. I mean, you want the longest life you want,
right?
Tax your maintenance fees, right? So, with those thoughts in mind, it makes sense to an owner. And I always caution owners, I go, beware of the coconut wireless. Don't always take it for every word that they say. It's like a rumor. You said one statement here, and by the time it went to the other end, it was totally different. Not even the same context. It was totally blown out of proportion. So I always tell them, I go, you need to hear it from the horse's mouth first. That's why you go to the board meetings, to get caught up, and understand. I mean, you may not have the time to attend every single one, but you should at least attend every once in a while. And then also, the resident manager, that they will have the most current information, because he or she does attend the board meetings as well,
Right.
Or even conversing with the board members directly, so that you get the correct information that you need, and not the coconut wireless that I call it.
And also, I mean, if as you mentioned, if you can't attend the board meeting, there's always the board meeting minutes that you can read, right? So even if you can't attend in person, you can still keep informed by reading the minutes.
Yeah.
Right.
So what about complaints? How should the board address complaints?
Well, I mean, I guess it, of course, things are always, there's always two sides to every story, right?
Mhm.
But I guess being the board and being that they have a fiduciary responsibility to the owners and the association, and being as they represent the owners, it would probably help them if they could, I mean, any person that makes a complaint wants to be heard, right? We want to be heard. We want our complaint acknowledged. And hopefully, if possible, we want it addressed and resolved. That would be in the ideal world, right? That's kind of, at least I think that's how that's how I would want it. I think that's how other people would want it. However, um, it kind of depends too on how it's presented. I mean, I think if the person is ranting and raving and, yelling and all that, it's not going to be received well. If the person making the complaint, is a little bit more calm and level-headed, hopefully it's received well. Hopefully the board will take it, as an opportunity to maybe find out something or learn something, and again, maybe address it, why they can do something, why they can't do something. Hopefully, like I said earlier, nip it in a bud, and not let it fester and blow up and get to be a bigger complaint. And I think also, I know you've shared with me before that, other owners may have the same concerns. So, they could also look at it like, hey, if it's affecting one person, maybe it's affecting other people. So again, it's good for the board to know because maybe they don't know. I mean, maybe there's a problem in a certain part of the complex where the board members, maybe they all live in another part of the complex and they don't know, right? So it can help when people bring it to their attention. They may not know about it. And obviously, if the board doesn't know about it, they're not going to be addressing it, right? But, you know, I think that, again, we all want to be heard and acknowledged.
There's a consumer, it's called Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. It deals with more of the financial services industry, and a consumer can make a complaint through that. One of the things that the CFPB touts, and I really take it to heart, is that entities should not take a complaint as being like a hostile thing. They should take it as an opportunity to read it. It could be something that they were just totally oblivious about, that they didn't see it from the eyes of the consumer. So, and the same thing applies to the board. It could be something that, oh my God, we didn't even realize that when we made this decision, So they have to be open-minded and not be just, oh my God, it's another complaint. They can't be in that kind of a mentality. They should be open about it. It could be an opportunity to realize that a decision they made had another serious consequence that would be costly or detrimental. So it would defeat the purpose of what they're trying to do. Or it's an opportunity to find like a little a puka, or it could be something dealing with a certain employee that they're getting the same complaints over and over. So it's an opportunity that they can that they could, in essence, grow from and correct anything. But it shouldn't be taken as like some board members call, oh, they're just frivolous. No, I really wouldn't call it very frivolous. Everybody should have that opportunity to be heard and to express their views without being, I want to say, chastised in any or being labeled in any manner. And because otherwise, if you don't take it in with an open mind, that person, it just festers, and
Right.
that's where you don't want that to be. It just festers. And then it could create another bigger problem that we have in the country today,
Yeah. I before if we have time, do you think we can talk about some of the resources maybe?
Yeah, we
Or-
have a few more minutes.
We
So
do?
yeah, let's get
Okay,
into that.
great,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know, as you mentioned, I'm from the real estate branch, and we have tons of resources on our website. It's basically our role is basically education, right? So we're here to provide education for owners and boards, and we have tons of resources. We have lots of downloadable brochures and publications. We've got a series of short educational videos. There's 15 in the series. They were professionally produced and they're all 3 to 5 minutes, so they're short. You can watch those. We have a condo bulletin that we send out quarterly by email. So, if someone's interested in receiving that, they can subscribe to our condo education email list. We put on a Condo-rama twice a year, which is a free event with speakers, usually talking about experts in their field, usually talking about current, topics in the condo world, or just, issues that are relevant to condo owners. So we actually have one coming up on Saturday, April 29th. It's going to be in a webinar format. And so if anybody were interested in signing up for that, they certainly can. The topics are going to be who got sued and why is your maintenance fee increasing, steps to stop the bleeding, the golden rule, rules that make rather than break a community, and the fundamentals of EV charging stations. So our website for everybody is www.hawaii.gov/HIREC. That's HIREC for Hawaii Real Estate Commission.
Cool. And with the remaining time that we have, I'm going to do a little infomercial. With Hawaii Council, we're going to do, I think this is going to be our 5th Board of Director training. It's going to be on July 22nd and 29th. It's 2 Saturdays, but they are half days each because it was based upon surveys from the last couple of years. Everybody suggested that we break it up into part 1 and part 2. So it's going to involve 2 Saturdays in a row. And it's at the Oahu Country Club, our new venue that we found that we like. We got rave reviews on our benchmarking seminar for that location and the food. Everybody loved the food. So that was good. So we're open for registrations. So you can contact your managing agent for registration. And we'll basically just go to hawaiicouncil.org and register online. And if you're a board member, that fee is paid through the association. So it's annual meeting season, should be winding down. So anybody that's new to the board should really be signing up for that board of director training. So I think we're near our end. Thank you, Lorie, for being with me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All the work that you guys do. I wish we could post our events on your website, but I know we can't. I got that email. Let's try to think outside the box. How do we disseminate all this information? Because there's a lot of information, and it's just getting out to the people where to go get it. That I think that's kind of like where we're stuck. On how do we really get all that tons of information out?
I agree.
So thank you again. Have a great rest of your week. I hope it's not going to be rainy the way it's being forecasted to. We can always use the rain, but can we dry out a little bit more? So thank you again. Have a good rest of your week.
Okay, thanks, Raelene.
See ya.
Thank you so much for watching Think Tech Hawaii. If you like what we do, please like us and click the subscribe button on YouTube and the follow button on Vimeo. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and donate to us at thinktechhawaii.com. Mahalo.